Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from AnthonysCustoms, and for this review, we are looking at the Figma Legend of Zelda, the Twilight Princess Zelda figure. And this thing is just really nice. It definitely has a few issues. You know, it's a figure with a very large, like formal gown type of dress on, so it's going to have some issues in terms of posability, but it is incredibly well done otherwise. There are some really fantastic aspects to this figure, so I'm very happy to show it to you. So let's go ahead and get it off the stand and take a closer look. This figure stands just about 15 centimeters to the top of her head, which makes her just about 5 3/4 inches. Now it is worth noting that that is based on how her dress is posed. As you can see, it comes down and it is articulated, but as you might also be able to see, her feet cannot touch the table. So I'm actually measuring from her dress and not her feet to her head. I guess if you brought this out wide enough, you might be able to get her to stand on her feet, but that's not likely. Now that might sound like a huge issue, but honestly, I mean, she's got this big dress anyway, so you're not going to really need to see that her feet are touching the table. And she does stand fine, not literally stand, but you know, the figure itself sits on the shelf or table just fine, so it's not really a big deal. Okay, so we got that out of the way. Now, the hardcore Zelda fans may notice that there are definitely some inaccuracies about her outfit, like these little blue things up here on her boobages. Those should be over more towards the cleavage. Maybe the necklace thing should be a little bit higher up on her chest. You know, things like that, little issues. Just little things. This part down here, this kind of whatever you want to call this pattern on her sleeve. Pretty sure that's supposed to be gold. Same thing for this down here. But there's enough detail everywhere else that is done so incredibly well that it more than makes up for it. So I have to point out that the paint job on this thing is just exquisite. It's fantastic. The sculpt and the paint, to be completely honest, despite those few inaccuracies, you can see just down here, there's so much clean paint work. It's so nice looking. Down around the bottom of the dress, you can see all of these little, I don't know what you want to call them, chain link pattern thingies. Paint, that's all just painted on. That looks really nice. Up here on the actual sculpted parts, it's very clean, very nicely painted. Her head looks very good. But here's the thing that really sets this off. It's such a tiny detail. If you look close at the edge of her purple part, which is really nice metallic purple, by the way, there's Hylian, or Hylian, however you want to pronounce that. I've always said Hylian. I don't know why. Anyway, it's all the way around the figure, and it's incredibly clean, and it's incredibly lined up, and it just looks so good. It goes all the way around the back, even up underneath the articulation and up onto the rest of her torso. And then you have this part up here on her arm where it's got some nice paint work and sculpt work. It's just so incredibly well detailed. It's very nice. Oh, this is another thing. Her little hairband thingies are a little bit inaccurate, but again, it's not the biggest deal in the world because everything else that's there, it's just so nice. This might be, in terms of just fine sculpt work and paint work, the best looking figure I own. I don't know for sure, and obviously it's not the best in terms of posability and things like that, but I can't think of another one offhand that has as many nice, tiny, fine, high quality details as this one. But you know, it's just a hunch, but that goes to tell you how nice it actually is. And while we're on the subject of paint, we do have that it's molded, but it's kind of like a pearly, I guess it could technically have paint on it, but her dress and her sleeves are kind of like a pearly white, and it just looks really nice up against all the different metallics and flats, and it's really cool looking. Okay, so let's stop gushing over the aesthetics of the figure. Let's talk about the accessories. We do have two interchangeable faces. One is the neutral face that comes on her in the package, and the other one is an almost identical face with just the tiniest of smirks. We do have a bunch of different hands. We have the two fist hands that come on her in the package. We have two gripping hands, and then another gripping hand, which are for her respective weapons. We have one hand for holding her arrow, and then two style pose hands, all very nicely detailed. So since she has weapons, we have to talk about those. We have her sword, which is very nicely detailed, very nice sculpt, very tiny, fine sculpt, but it's done really well. So we have that, which is nice, and then we also have her bow and arrow, which look really nice. The sculpt work is just perfectly edged up. It's nice and sharp. It's not a sloppy sculpt in any way. And then the paint work matches that, so it's just fantastic for both the arrow and the bow. And then lastly, we get the standard Figma display stand, which, you know, I never really comment on it, but it is nice that all the Figmas come with display stands. Yes, the Figmas are a little bit more expensive nowadays, but having the display stand it does really add a lot of value, I think. Now, let's talk about the figure. How well is it going to be posed? It's probably going to be added to a Smash Brothers collection, which I wish I could show you guys my updated Smash collection, but you know, I'm still in the process of moving. This is not going as planned, and all of my stuff is still 1,200 miles away, so I can't show it to you. But eventually I will. But will she be able to be posed at all? Because that's kind of important. The answer is pretty much not from the waist down. Yes, the dress does have articulation, standard Figma joints for this part. This piece right here doesn't really move. I mean, it moves, but doesn't have any articulation. And then this piece back here, same situation. Oh, that's right, there's no other piece. I was thinking of another figure. So it's just the two pieces, and then this one. And then this piece is just glued on top. So you're really not going to be able to do anything with the dress or the legs inside. The legs do technically have all of the Figma standard articulation, and there is a little bit of sculpt work on there, but there's really no point in going over it. I mean, it is just standard articulation, but you cannot do anything with the legs. It's just not possible. So you can't even see them. So we're going to just ignore them. Now the head is nicely done, especially because they have it in a bunch of different pieces, which is kind of nice in terms of interchanging the heads or the faces. You can pop off this top piece, and I'm going to do that to show you, and her crown comes off because the face doesn't come with it. Her hair has a nice hinge in it. Doesn't give you the best range of motion, but it's definitely enough. I mean, you can put her in like an action-y pose, and that will help with that for sure. Now I'll pop off the face to show you the neck. We have our standard Figma joint. It's a straight peg in here and a straight peg in there with the hinge. So it'll lean forward and back very well, and then you can rotate it and kind of cock it from side to side on that other peg. So it works very nicely. For the shoulders, we have slipped shoulder joints so they can pull out, which give you added range of motion. Obviously, it's a ball peg, so you get tons more range when you pull it out, so that's pretty cool. It is worth noting that her torso is so narrow that the shoulder slip joint actually bump into each other as you do it. It's just the tiniest bit if you watch. It's just the tiniest little bit, but they do technically bump into each other. So if you push this one in, this one will push out, but it's no big deal. But you pull it out, you get your ball peg for all kinds of motion. Then you have your standard hinge right there, which works really well. You can get the arm out there. And this shoulder pad, though it doesn't move, it's a very soft plastic, so it won't get in the way of really anything. You can even put it up there and get the arm out very nicely. So that's good. You do have a bicep swivel up here in the shoulder, but you don't really need it because you have one down here, which is perfectly effective. It's your standard swivel, so full range there. Single jointed elbow, a little bit better than 90. Then you have your ball hinge wrists, which actually give you really good range, and they look nice too because they're not too big, not too little. They're pretty much the perfect size. So that's really good. Okay, and now for the torso, I believe it's just a single ball peg. It's probably not because generally Figmas use a double ball peg, but it feels like it's just a single. You can lean her back a little bit, which isn't terrible, and you can lean her forward a little bit. It's not the greatest range. It's just enough, really. And then, of course, since it is a ball peg, it does go side to side, which is pretty good range for side to side. And then you can rotate it pretty much all the way around. So that's pretty good, but then that's it. So yeah, it's definitely very limited. You're going to just be able to pose her in kind of like a very neutral pose, whether she's either holding her bow or holding her sword. You're not going to be able to do that much, so it's definitely detrimental to the figure, but I don't know what else they could have done, and it does look really, really fantastic, and it's Princess Zelda, so I'm going to say I definitely recommend it 100%. Probably go pre-order it at Big Bad Toy Store so you make sure you get one. They should be coming in stock relatively soon, so there is a link in the description for that. And that'll do it, guys. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. I have new videos up every single day. We talk about action figures, movies, TV shows, video games, all kinds of fun stuff. So make sure you come back for that. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, and in the meantime, keep collecting.